so I have a pleasure to entertain you till the end. So a little bit lighter topic, not technical, so no single line of code. I'll try to talk about how actual teams of developers, admins, and so on, all the IT teams have changed over the years, and what is right now really important when you're trying to build a new team or you try to make your team like cloud native, which is obviously just a slang in this case. But okay. So first of all, maybe I'll introduce myself. My name is Rafał Małanij. I'm an office head of container source in Poland, also delivery manager right now. I've been into IT for over 10 years. Project management, delivery management, business dev, a few different roles. I'm interested in cloud computing, DevOps, data science. You can find me behind those days Warsaw as well, PyData Warsaw, and a couple of other initiatives that are happening all around here. Okay, so first of all, have you heard about the 10x engineers? Okay, like 3 people. This is a term coined in early days of the software development, and actually it means that there are some individuals that can be 10 times more productive than the others. Actually, from time to time this term still pop up, but it's been already proved that it's actually not true. Steve McConnell, in his book, he summarized 20 years of research over NASA project deliveries that actually in 1996, I forgot to put the date, but he proved in 1996 that it doesn't mean, like, it's not about individuals anymore, it's about the teams. So right now in our distributed world, it's even more important because our systems are getting more complex, we're getting more users, and we're not working anymore with just people sitting next to your desk. So just to put a little bit more context on what's happening right now. So actually, most of the businesses are working like that. So you have some resources, you apply some processes, and you create value to the customers, and these customers are willing to pay for that, pay or not, right? The point is that we are monitoring feedback, and we're trying to adjust our processes, resources, all that stuff, to produce better value. You obviously know this graph, right? So the cost of fixing the bug, depending on the stage. So if it's on production, it's 30 times more costly than when at this stage. The same with creating value. So, for example, like for the manufacturing cars, it takes 2 to 4 years to produce a new car. In software development, for example, ING is able to do a full cycle from the idea to production in 48 hours. So actually all the businesses, taking into account the risk and actually the costs of making a mistake in creating value, they're trying to shorten these cycles. So instead of doing like this green ones, long cycles when you have higher costs of making a failure, into the short ones. So you can iterate and check all the time if you're going the right way or not. So this is actually the business, this is actually the situation that we have right now, that we're trying to shorten the cycles, lower the risk, and enforce more implementation. I don't know what's not working. Oh, sorry. And actually, in our cloud native world, in our software world, it's even easier, much easier to do it because we have microservice application, like microservices containerized, orchestrated dynamically. Obviously, automated by CI/CD, almost no handoffs, no paperwork, just multiple times a day we deploy to production. So these opportunities we have right now in the cloud world have certain impact on the teams, how we build the teams and how we actually manage teams. Like in the old days, the waterfall days, we had like very simple situation, like developers producing functionalities, testers doing some magic over, the tests, and then operations, like throwing over the wall to operations, just handle it and send to your customers. The feedback was usually like, it doesn't work, and all the world of the confusion, this story. Over the time when Agile came into the play, more cross-functional teams appeared, and then more or less at the same time, the DevOps term was coined, and actually it turned out to be a separate role into organization. So a separate team in the organization that was supposed to help developers to ship the code into production, but still we have an operations, and at the end, it didn't really much help the developers itself. It was just another team, another silo within the organization. Have you seen yesterday the talk by Maciek Lasik when he said that he was saying that you shouldn't ever call anyone a DevOps because DevOps is a culture, not a role in the organization. So that went wrong, right? Actually, we had the culture paradigm which turned into the role in the organization. Right now, in our world, we have a little bit different situation. We have, obviously, DevOps team, which is developers, operations, and guys, people actually working on the business functionalities, on the functionalities, and the platform team, a SRE team that is responsible for delivering the platform. So making the platform usable for the developers, but actually the developers are shipping the code themselves to production. You build it, you run it paradigm. Few months ago, I was on a DevOps Poznań, and Łukasz gave a very nice talk about their story of DevOps evolution in the holiday check. So actually, they started as usual as a DevOps silo in holiday check. So they were assigned to some projects, helping people to do some automation, do some scripting, but they actually didn't work out at the end. So they changed into what they called Panda. So performing natural DevOps adoption. And actually that was a kind of platform team working to develop the platform so the developers could themselves ship the code. And they were actually helping them to assert certain standards and all this stuff. So this is kind of a use case that this kind of evolution really worked out. And taking into consideration that right now every company is more or less a software company, even like they're not aware of that yet, they have to be a software company in the near future, we should have a closer connection with the business. So it's not like we have a IT somewhere, even if it's like very effective delivering the code very fast, then there are like business guys. Then you have a wall in between still. And we're getting into the Conway law when the communication with some teams may be better, and then we get much better output, and with other teams not really working like that. So in some cases, business people are joining the teams, and we have cross-functional teams with business people on board. So actually, this is the reskilling of the enterprises, of the skill set in the enterprise, and getting more like the business people more involved, and we call it like a business DevOps. And obviously, the platform team that enables them to work and deliver the value to the customers. So it's more about the value, not actually teams. For example, ING, they have a cross-functional multidisciplinary team that they called squads. The squads are a few squads get into what they call tribes, and this is kind of a part of the value they deliver to the customer. So they kind of change of value they deliver to the customer. The same is in the Spotify. So they have squads, they have tribes, they have also chapters. So chapters, that means the chapters connects to people that are having the same role in the team. So for example, analysts, developers, Java developers, for example. You can check Spotify model on YouTube. They have very, very nice videos over there. So right now, it's not about IT and non-IT anymore. It's more about where's your place in delivering the value to the customer. So if you're working on a business capabilities, or you're delivering the platform that you enable delivering this, that is enabling the delivery of this value to customers, or you're responsible for site reliability, and in the case you still have some kind of infrastructure on premise, the infrastructure team. But like if you're using the public cloud, it's we can live with that. And I'll tell you the story of the Sterling Bank. Pin yesterday mentioned that bank because like we've spoken a couple of times to the CTO of the Sterling Bank, and they have a very, very good story. They built a bank from the scratch, from this like the first line of code within the year, in a very small team starting off like 2 people coding. Right now they're being awarded by British Bank Awards and world's best bank. They get all the awards. This is a kind of fintech. They have multidisciplinary cross-functional teams. So all the business people understand tech, and all the tech understands business. They ship up to 5 times a day to the production, and they work on small chunks of functionalities, 1 or 2 days of the actual work. If it's more than 2 days, that's very risky for them, and they shouldn't do that. It's like if you're working on a batch that is long, like takes like 3 or 4 days to deliver, you shouldn't be allowed to do that, because this is gonna be very risky for them. Okay, so we know like how are the people, like how the teams have evolutioned, how they changed. What actually means that they're effective? What makes them effective to work? In 2012, Google did a kind of research, Project Aristotle, about team effectiveness. They call it Project Aristotle because of this quote from Aristotle that it's not about the individuals, it's about the teams, because they intuitively thought that it's going to be this way, right? So they were looking for a perfect recipe to build a team. Like, for example, like having 1 postdoc, 1 senior, 2 juniors, like 1 tester, something like that. But it turned out, after researching over 180 teams, that took them a few years to go through the teams, correlate the effectiveness with the actual management style and stuff. It turned out that it's not so simple to build this recipe, because it doesn't really care who is on the team. It much more care how the team interacts with each other and how the people within the team feel. So they found that like 5 attributes matters a lot about like in the teams. Psychological safety. This is the way how you can like freely speak up, and if you feel secure within the team. So you can bring new ideas, you can ask questions, you can ask stupid questions, and you will not feel embarrassed within the team. Dependability, so how you can depend on the people that you work with. Yesterday, Maciek spoke about his previous experience and the current experience in Codewise, right? I think he's working in Codewise. That right now he's working in a team that he can depend on the other people. So just let them know, ask them to do something, and they're going to deliver that. And previously, that wasn't so simple. So this is the dependability. Structure and clarity. So basically, if we know what we're doing and we have like kind of structured processes, we know who's responsible for what. So we feel much more secure within our environment. Meaning of work. So if actually what we're doing has something like personal meaning to us, and if the thing we're doing has kind of impact on something, has a reason. Like no one really likes to do something that's going to be put on the shelf, or like be a part in a certain process that's going to be like thrown away afterwards because this work is meaningless. Kind of. Bullshit jobs. Yeah. And actually, this order is not accidental. They found that the biggest correlation is between psychological safety and effectiveness. So over 46%, as far as I remember. So what is psychological safety in more like details? In 1999, Amy Edmondson, she was a professor on that was Harvard Business School. She coined the term psychological safety after having researched in a few hospitals in the UK. She was trying to find out why some of the teams, like doctors and nurses, are more effective and have better results than the others. It turned out that the only thing that was over there and had a certain reason was the ability to speak up, the ability to feel safely in the environment, and even if there was kind of a hierarchy, because like the nurses and doctors, they were able to openly ask questions, openly question what someone else is doing, and they were not embarrassed or punished for that. She called that psychological safety. There's a very nice TEDx on YouTube. You can find it. It takes like 20 minutes to watch, and she describes what she actually found out over there. And do you know State of DevOps report? No? State of DevOps report is released once a year by DORA, like DevOps Research Association, as far as I remember. I think it's like the most thorough research report on the DevOps, actually. So the implementation, the tools, where we are as a community, it's based on surveys. It's backed by CNCF, Google right now, and a few big companies. And this is the graph that I found in the newest State of DevOps report from 2019, released 2 weeks ago, so it's very, very fresh. And you can find that if you look at the common goal for the team organization, productivity. We have to be productive because we have to deliver value kind of fast, right? So we cannot lose time on like processes, on crappy stuff. Obviously, useful, easy-to-use tools, internal search, external search. This correlates positively with productivity. So if you don't have to look for the information in a very long time, that's going to make you more productive. Obviously, technical debt is negatively correlated. So if you have you don't have monitoring, loosely coupled architecture, you can obviously find the kind of a negative correlation between that. But they found out that the culture of psychological safety also correlates productivity. I want to mention one more thing. Related with productivity. So if you're working productively the whole day, you get you recover easier after that, and you will very likely not to get burnout. Burnout is kind of a disease that no one is talking about really, but it's kind of a common. So look, psychological safety, productivity, work recovery, burnout. So if in your organization the people are not able to speak up, you will not get the good answers, like the answers that can really depend on. So I love text from Edward Deming. This is the guy who actually is a father of kind of a total quality management things. He was a statistician, and he had some very, very interesting books and quotes. So actually, if you cannot rely on what people are saying, you cannot really make any decisions in the organization. Okay, so how to kind of create this psychological safety environment? Amy Edmondson spotted she coined she proposed just 3 simple things. So Frame the work as a learning problem, not execution problem. So tell people that this is the kind of job where we have to actually learn, not just execute. Let them fail and admit that you can fail as well. And start encouraging curiosity within the organization. So make people more curious and encourage that. So why this learning problems, curiosity is very important. We're living in like, maybe not living, but working in an environment that is very not stable. You know this probably, this landscape, everyone is using this. I'm showing this because, this slide because it shows how many technologies we have around. So look at the scenarios we can just build out with these technologies. The paths, the implementation, architectures, there's so many options. And the whole landscape is changing very rapidly. Like we had some time ago a discussion about operators. And one of my friends who's like doing operators right now, he said that the old ways of doing operators is like that. And the old ways mean in 2018, so 1 year, right? So we just cannot rely on our knowledge. We have to make our people curious about what's next and let them get this knowledge, learn new stuff from that. Amy Anderson, in her paper, also correlated accountability for meeting the goals, demanding goals, with psychological safety. And actually, when you look at a situation where you don't have psychological safety, so you're not able to speak up, but you're accountable for very demanding goals, you get anxious. And it's not the situation we really want our people to be. Like we don't want them to be anxious and actually go and like get burnout. Sometimes it happens in investment banks or high-power consultancies. So you're just a small piece in the machinery, but you're accountable for bringing this contract. Like totally opposite. We have low accountability, but we can, we have very easy work environment. So we can just talk, have a nice coffee and all this stuff. We're in the comfort zone. But we're not learning here. We just feel comfortably because we're not responsible for anything. And it's like a nice environment. Sometimes family businesses or small consultancies are like that. Apathy zone, so everything low. Low psychological safety, low accountability. So nothing depends on me. I cannot do anything, actually, and I cannot speak about that. Bureaucracies. So you're a small string somewhere within the whole machinery, like you said. Like my job starts at 9, finish at 5, and I have to do like all these papers, and that's all. This is apathy zone, like all these robots going early morning to Mordor, for example. Yeah, and excuse me. Emphasized, I would say. I didn't want to offend anyone, right? But actually what we really would like to achieve is learning zone. So people are accountable and they have ability to speak, ask questions, and be responsible for that. Why is like that? Because in the past, the low risk for the business was to have a certain framework, processes. So, I had a discussion today with you, actually, and your colleague from Mindbox about choosing new systems. Like if you're government or something like that, you choose a system that has been already implemented in a couple of other places. That means it's already old. Old technology, old approach, like probably will have to be changed to adjust your business processes. So, but they choose what they think is low risk. Today, the low risk, is experimenting, failing, fast iterations, and taking better decisions. With this feedback loop, obviously. we can find the same in the Westrum topology model. Robert Westrum in late 80s suggested the topology model for the organization. So we have pathological, bureaucratic, and generative models. The reason that the actual differences between them is the information flow. So in pathological organization, like novelties crashed, messages are shot, low cooperation, no one cares. And it's like the huge authority. Bureaucratic, it's like process. No one cares about what's happening, the process has to be fulfilled. But we really want to be in this place, right? Failure inquiry, novelty implemented. Like operators last year, like very early stage. Right now, it's like everyone's talking about that. How to do that? How to create this learning organization, learning environment. Sounds easy. It's much more challenging when you start to implement that. First of all, support learning environment. So implement the mechanisms that will help your people to talk, to stand up, like psychological safety, but also to reflect on what was happening and analyze what we did, why we did that, and what went wrong. So kind of retros. Learning processes and practices. Structuring the process of experimentation, sharing feedback, make this feedback available for everyone. Doing retros as well. So we have kind of a framework and tool set for doing that. And leadership. Leadership reinforcement, that basically means that our leaders have to encourage us to debate, to have a dialogue, to talk about that, what we're doing, because then we will be much eager to learn. So these are like 3 building blocks of that. All right, another thing. In this situation where we want our team to be productive, we want them to deliver fast, we want them to take accountability, be responsible for what they're delivering. Imagine that we have very, very strong processes and they cannot really make decisions in the field based on the outcome they just got. So they have to go like 2 levels up, ask people for acceptance, and then maybe like implement what they found. That takes time. Like you wouldn't be able to deliver the idea to production in 48 hours if you have to ask like and have like different approvals. Like in the past when I was working in deployment organizations, like within the ITIL framework, like a huge fraction of the all changes were emergency changes, because emergency changes didn't have to go through the CAB, so change advisory board. So like you wanted to do something in production, emergency change, right? Yeah, kind of something like that. Retroactive change request. Yeah, that was the same with emergency, because like the emergency change was you have to fix it, then you can like do the paperwork. And like my friends at one day just ended up with like hundreds of tickets open, and he was just automating to open, paste, close, open, paste, close. So this is just an illusion, right? We don't want to do that because like people get frustrated. Imagine that these guys have the same process, like the change advisory board or whatever board that was approving all the ads. They released these ads like a day after Apple showed the Mac Pro computer. It's like, so first do, then ask for forgiveness. You may fail, right? But then you have an effect, right? Everyone knows this. IKEA is like in terms of marketing, it's like the best company I know. And actually, I'll go back to State of DevOps report, and it more or less says the same. We're interested in organizational performance that correlates with software delivery and operational performance. And if we have clear change process, clear change process, it correlates positively. If you have heavyweight it correlates negatively. So you have to give autonomy to your people within a certain framework. I'll talk about that in a while, to make them actually productive. Okay, so this is, when talking about autonomy, it's not about laissez-faireism, so do whatever you want. But it's more about making the people responsible for the decisions, make them ability to make these decisions, empower them. First of all, how to create this kind of framework for being autonomy, to give autonomy to your people. Let them fail. I'm going to repeat that. That's very important. Provide information context. Where are you heading? What's our goal? Because this will allow them to make decisions. And obviously, the feedback information that's coming from, for example, they make a decision, there's a result, give them feedback, because then they will be able to make better decisions, right? This sounds very obvious, but I'm sure that in many companies it doesn't work. So we make decision and it goes, and then we guess if it was good or not. Build trust. So obviously, we should trust them. They should trust us. Without trust, we have micromanagement. Delegate ownership with accountability. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. And give them the right tools. Let them choose tools. Let them choose the means they need for do they work, and give them these tools. So let them decide within the area they're working in. Okay, and I mentioned autonomy to give a kind of an entry point into the framework or kind of technique I really like, and I find very useful in making decisions in an autonomous team. That is called value hierarchy. I know that the values of your companies are probably you were informed about them, sometimes at the onboarding. They're sometimes printed somewhere near the reception desk, but no one really cares about that, right? We had that situation, one of the customers that the person that was doing kind of a workshop presented a list of values, and the guys over there from the customer's side, they were looking at, oh yeah, very interesting values, very nice. But then my colleague said, but these are your values. They were printed in a toilet. I just typed them down, but you were not aware of them, actually. But if you have it clear and you have a hierarchy of these values, you let people make decisions based on that. I use the Starling Bank example. Greg Hawkins provided this actual slide and explained how they do it over there. So they value security over resilience over scale. So imagine the developer is doing a change, and it's going to improve resilience, but might impact security. He will not be allowed, or he shouldn't be allowed. He shouldn't even make this change. That should be rejected, because in their business, security is like the first place, the first value. Imagine in fintech that there's a security breach and it goes public, and then the whole all the fintechs around are doomed, right? And they're doomed basically. If someone cannot log into the application, that doesn't look good, but still it's secure. If there's a security breach goes out, even not confirmed, that's a doom for them. So that's why they have value hierarchy. And you can, if you're working with you're delivering something, you're working on certain functionality, you know which part are you improving and which part are the most important that you should stick on. Okay, why we should do all this consider all of this? Yeah, obviously to be faster, deliver faster, focus on the value, remove all the obstacles, be more productive. And yeah, I'll stick to the state of the DevOps report one more time. Actually, state of the DevOps report, in this report, the authors they collect a number of they do a number of surveys, and they group companies within certain groups. So elite is the best group, obviously, and the low performers are the lowest group. They take into consideration deployment frequency, lead time for change, time to restore service, change failure, and this you can see the differences, right? So elite is like on demand, low is once per month or something like that. In 2018, we had only 7% of elite performance, 40% of high performance. Over the year, this has changed. Elite performance, 20%. So 20% of the companies, they asked, and they're doing a couple of thousand surveys a year, are elite right now. What it means that like probably some companies that work on, some companies like if your closest competitors might be doing stuff like that, so delivering much more faster, and they will be much better in delivering the value and actually doing the business, right? Interesting is that the high performance, over 48% over here, and 23% over here, so it's like 25 percentage point difference, and the medium performers are like 44, 37. Somewhere here on the transformation into cloud native, I would say it didn't work. So probably they started doing kind of POCs, they thought it's working, but it's much more harder. Probably technology worked, culture didn't. And just a few statistics. If you're elite, you like the elite performers are doing 208 times more code deployments to production than the low performance. So it's like kind of a huge number, right? 106 times faster lead time deployment, 7 times lower change failure rate. I really encourage you to go to and check this state of the DevOps report. It's an interesting read. It's not very long. It's interesting. Okay, so just to sum up, I'm a little bit ahead of time. Just to sum up, like it was Deming one more time. You don't have to survive, right? So you don't have to make this change. But if you want to survive, you want to be faster in delivering the value, like decreasing the cost as well, you should think about giving your team a space, accountability, safety of doing the work, and yeah, basically trust them a little bit more. And remember that DevOps is not a role. Like if someone says that, he's trying to sell you something. So it's a culture, and it's, I think, the hardest part of the whole transformation. All right, thank you.
I'm just wondering, because if you are you are not there yet in your company, and you want to get to this good performant elite group, right? Do you think it's possible to using the not so elite methods that currently exist in the company to drive the change? So going back to the pathological, bureaucratic, and the third one model, is it possible to using bureaucratic methods drive the change to the better model?
I would say that let's leave technology, because this is a different part. You can perform some steps to be more effective. In terms of the company culture, what big corporates, businesses are doing like that, they launching a small startups next to them. Works better, sometimes worse, but still this kind of a startup thing, and they're working much more effectively than the huge ones. So either you try to make a small bubble within, and that is kind of secure from the bureaucracy around, or you make a kind of a branch or something like that, small startup, different organization. Because if you work in a huge enterprise, that's more or less impossible to change them within the short period of time. They don't. In some cases, they don't want to change really. But if you want to do it faster, let's maybe do it kind of aside. Sometimes what we are doing as well, we're taking companies and start from the bottom, from developers. We're asking more people from the management just to join, but there has to be a will on their side as well to change. Actually, they have to see the need to do that. If not, it's not really. It's about the culture. and then how the people work together. And you can obviously kill it. For example, like one of the Polish companies I've seen recently, they started the agile transformation, and it worked pretty nice at the beginning because like they had agile coach, they created Scrum Master teams, and it's like it worked. But then like, all the board of the directors just came in and were just like shooting into them and actually killing the people's engagement. This is the worst thing you can lose, the people's engagement. So I don't think there's a right answer to that. This bubble has to be somehow secured from the whole like pathology around like processes, heavy processes.